This is Colin Digits. I'm here with the DigitsClub, and I got Vladimir here from TG DAO. Thank you so much for joining us today. Your Launchpad, we have a lot of questions upcoming, right? Quite new, big opportunity. And obviously, I'm curious how you're coping with the current market and your ideas. Could you give us a little bit of an introduction about the Launchpad and about yourself, perhaps?
Okay, cool. First of all, thank you for having me. It's been nice getting to know your community also, and it's cool how we get to, get more introduced to each other. So yeah, I'll start with myself. So name is Vladimir, as you saw. I'm actually a CEO of the TG DAO Launchpad, just a little bit over 2 months. So this is a little new to me, but nearly all my life work career in startups. So I love new things and been looking into crypto for some time by now. Lots of friends started their own projects in there, and finally I got my own chance to participate. So very excited to be part of this movement. And I'm going to be speaking with very kind of simple terms. So obviously, Launchpad, it appeared as a necessity, I guess, for the market because, everything or lots of things are moving into crypto. They need to start somewhere, right? So pads actually do a very logical, needed thing of introduction or building up actually the community, I guess, first of all, and explain and being sort of a bit of a gateway, right, for the projects and for the communities into the projects. So I mean, all this niche, I guess, is still in development as all the crypto world, but we can, because this world is not regulated as US would like it to be regulated, and eventually it might be more regulated. We see lots of issues even with things like Luna today, etc. So obviously there's a need for a balance of protection, but at the same time freedom, and I think we're going to be keep on developing that way. So I think us as a Launchpad and guys like you who build up our communities and build up the trust and our workflows are here to start building that bridge between the needed security or comfort with the crypto world and knowledge of people. Sorry about going a bit theoretical on this, but basically
it's interesting.
Yeah, but because I've been giving this opportunity, basically, okay, here's a Launchpad, this is very new. The business model itself is quite simple, right? You need the projects, you need the community, you need them to invest, and if everything goes well, you might make your commission on it. But first of all, there are way too many Launchpads like doing the same thing. Second, so I was given a Launchpad with ideology in it, which is the DAO ideology, which is in a way ideology of the whole crypto, but the founders of TG DAO, they're actually very much into the DAO concept, even outside of the crypto. So they started off with doing DAO offline businesses where the production of a product, the purchaser, the clients, and the guys who work in this production are all in one community, therefore benefiting it with better product quality, higher salaries, a little bit more expensive product, but everybody's being happy in it and everybody's an owner of the thing. So they're really fond of the whole DAO thing. And one of the reasons they wanted to create TG DAO is actually to, at some point of time, raise money for their own projects, which are going to be also offline and online. So actually the long-term plan is actually to bring the offline business into crypto world. Also, it's a huge challenge. I know like some projects are doing it, but it's so interesting. Yeah, but at least, so what I'm saying is, so first of all, TG DAO has its own freedom of development, plus, but at the same time, it's very much based on the people who really believe in the whole DAO concept. So then me taking into, this, first of all, DAO is a very abstract term, right? We can go very far away to communism or general kind of voting, etc. So you can pick wherever you want on the scale of, ultra left to ultra right. So, and I do, first of all, having a voice or giving everybody a voice is amazing as an idea, but there should be a balance between, centralized decision, because you need to have an owner of any process, right? And if it's a business,
ultimately, otherwise you get chaos.
Yeah. So my idea is, when I looked at it at where we are now, I wanted to go slowly, but at the most important thing, because choosing projects is very responsible. So there are different ways to propose a project or even sell any product, right? You can either say, hey, I got this piece of bread, it costs $1, do you want it, right? Or you can go deeper and describe to me, you know, the why, how, what, how is it made, where is it made, by whom it's made, and maybe get me more motivated. Or I will tell you a story why you should buy it, and that kind of, if it resonates with you, that, you know, we believe in ecosystems, we're using only things that don't hurt the ground, and then I get my own kind of community with the same values, and then it's easier to sell the end product, which would be bread in this case, right? So this is a little bit in the same way. So we want to have the thinkers and people who are like-minded, so we don't want to just propose any projects that we think. We want to look at projects deeper, I would want to say, than a lot of launchpads do. We want to give this broadened analytics to our community, and then we want them to decide if we should take it as a project or not. So it's a voting system, and maybe, you know, of course, there's going to be some, you know, opinion makers and influencers, but I think it's a good step to implement the DAO in Launchpad. What we also want to do going forward is we want to sort of like keep on collecting feedback from the community, like, guys, what should we do? What, for example, next product development we should do after the whole basic functions are already completed. We want to have this ongoing communication with the community, which way we should turn, so that not only they get to choose the projects, but they can also influence in which direction the path should be developing.
Very important, I think, when we look at most of the launch pads, it's more they're leading the community, right? Where ultimately when something goes wrong, and obviously in any business entity, something will go wrong, you get that disconnect, right? The investors don't feel heard. The pad is like, okay, but I thought you guys wanted this. Same ideology we have in DigitsClub, like we ask the community, what do you want? And then we try to make that happen to the best of our capabilities. It's never 100%. Right. But yeah, one thing you mentioned, which I thought was quite interesting, is when you said on projects, you said analytics. So I assume you would refer to due diligence there. What is it on projects you would provide to the community or the DAO? Do you have some like concrete examples?
Well, we already started doing that, and maybe you guys can look through our announcements when we do this. We call it deep scoring, because we obviously, as any launchpad, have our own scoring system. Yeah. Which so usually when somebody proposes a project, or we're looking out for projects, we first do a scan. Our researchers do it. Scan is like a top level overview of the project. You know, if it's hopefully not a scam, looking if the team is there, if they're not hidden, etc., the basic things. Then we move on to talking to the projects and seeing if they have also an interest to present themselves to our community. And then the usual thing that would happen is we would, or any launchpad would, do their own scoring, sort of giving them an in-house kind of grade of, you know, how good they are on specific topics, right? So we are trying to do the same, but we're trying, when we do it, we then write a big post about it with describing on each separate part of the project, why did we give such a score and why do we think it's a risk or not. So this is what we already started implementing.
Interesting. How does the community react to something, I would say, as transparent that you would be delivering to them? Are they skeptical, or do they feel like you might be holding back something, or is it like the opposite? It's like open arms.
Okay. You see, the biggest challenge, I would say, with building, at least for me, this launchpad is, like, so I described this idea of how we want to do this thing, right? But now we have to implement it well enough and do it rigidly and repetitively so the community gets used to it. What I'm trying to say is, whoever was at the beginning or when projects just launched, I think the community is going to be changing. I think our community is going to be getting more people who want to have more analytics, therefore, who want to have their voice heard, you know, because it's a it's a feeling of, you know, being part of something bigger, which usually, you know, brings a lot of gratification, I think. So the short answer, I think we're going to be adding a lot of new blood to our community once we have this flow that I described much more integrated into our product. So we are changing a lot. So right now, as we speak, we're actually like finalizing our pretty much total redesign of our product, which is our website. It's going to be much more human friendly on the landing page, and then we're going on much more detailed part on the project page. So when you open the project, you're going to see much more details there.
When you speak about details and investors, users of your Launchpad looking for more information, would you say that is a more mature investor or a less mature investor?
Oh, okay. First of all, like there's probably different grades of investors in crypto by itself, right? Because it's a different world, and you have, I don't know,
you have
probably,
Moon Boys and DigitsClub.
Perhaps, yes, perhaps. So I guess what I want, I don't want to say that I'm, look, there's a lot of people who just invest 10 or 30 bucks in some allocation and then look into it. And this, to me, okay, I'm, again, don't want to say nothing negative. I'm happy for those guys if they're making money. But even if you get an X30 on your 30 bucks investment, it's not going to be a life changer, right? So, and I'm not saying that we're hunting for the life changers, but I think if you seriously take crypto or crypto investing, you're still looking for some APY in a year, right? And I think you'll be thinking a little higher sums of investments. So I would say starting from 100 to 1,000 is something which is, at least it makes you worthwhile, you know, to track that project that you're doing, putting it into your, you know, Google Sheets file and then looking into it. Because honestly, if I invest only 10 bucks, it's not even worth me tracking it. It's just doesn't make sense.
That's
so
fair.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, and it's not that I'm, you know, a hungry big investor. It's just, so I'm thinking that whoever is treating investments more or less seriously and then wants a window into this project, because doing all the studies yourself is very complicated, and you know it perfectly, because as far as understood, this is exactly what you guys are doing for your community, right? You're taking the projects, you're looking into them, you're discussing with them, and it doesn't mean that you're pushing your opinion on it, but it's at least it's
Sometimes.
a basis. Sometimes. Okay. Good. Nice to know. But yeah, so again, sorry for a complicated answer all the time, but
no. It's this is what I like. I like it. It's interesting. You're thinking. It's not like the and no disrespect to the bigger Launchpads, but they have like corporate answers, right? It's quite boring. It's like this and this and this, this and this and this, and I already know what they're going to say. But I like it because you have to consider that, right? There's big investors, there's small investors, but when you would say, let's say $100 to $1,000, right, in terms of allocation would be interesting to keep up with. Does that mean that you're focusing on a specific tier country of investors? Because in my opinion, that would exclude, when you're talking about $10, $30, I would say Central Africa region, APAC region, those would be excluded if you're talking about 100 to 1,000, unless, you know, you always have the 1% there as well.
Okay, so again, I'll go back to the idea. Look, this is because me coming out of the startup world, and this is truly a startup. And you know, lots of people were saying, like, look, crypto is very different. You can't hire people out of not crypto world, which I think is a little bit not true, because you know, any business is business. It's just that here the things are a little more dynamic, yes, unstable, yes. Why am I saying all this? Because in any business, it's, you know, like planning out and thinking and doing should be like breathing, you know, in and out. So I wish I could study the market that much, you know, do lots of analysis, etc. But probably until I'm done, everything's going to change. So and I already have a working pad that I have to keep up with and start developing on it. So all I'm saying is this is a little bit intuitively we're doing, because again, what we have DAO, and you know, this is not a question. This is what we go with. We have a pad with lots of competing things. Then I have like my surrounding of people, whoever's interested in investments, and I have myself trying to invest in crypto, and I'm thinking, okay, what do I want. So basically, again, this is not a perfect kind of analysis of your potential market size, but I cannot imagine those guys who are just trying to gamble with it, because I don't have that experience. So I have to judge by myself and friends who want to make money. I need analytics, I need nice tools, I need to know about the token details, I want to be easily tracking all my vestings. So all these things, all these ideas are being poured into the product that we want. So first of all, I think it's a must-have. You always should be doing something that you are proud of or confident with. So this is what we're trying to do with OPAD. Going back to the idea about regions, if that sum of money, like $50, I didn't say that we want to limit the investment to a certain number. What I'm trying to say, if in those regions $50 is as valuable as to some other European guy as $500, he will treat it as seriously, right? Okay. So again, it's a matter of what kind of attention you're giving it to. So if he cares enough for $50, and he came, but let's be honest. So of course, the market fluctuations are amazing and dangerous at the same time. But at the same time, the return on investment are still quite amazing if we compare it to the let's call it real world, right? So 20% in real world is amazing. And if you look at Warren Buffett or anyone, with the compound effect, that brings you millions with the steady investments during, let's say, 10 or 20 years. So if you're able to invest into projects steadily and get even from 50 to 100%, return on average, it is a life changer if you can do it constantly and steadily during, a few years. So there, yeah.
What does it mean when it says TG DAO 3.0?
Okay. Well, TG actually stands for tech generation. I guess it was just kind of like the idea that the founders liked in the beginning. You could also call it token generation, I guess, but technically it's tech generation. TG DAO, which is decentralized or self-governing organization. 3.0, if you Google up Web 3.0, this is the latest what's going on with all the
I thought
that
there had been like a 1.0, 2.0 version before, but that's not the case. It
That's
refers to Web 3, basically.
Yes, it was refers, yeah.
All right, okay, so then it makes sense. We have one question, which is kind of interesting. I will rephrase it a little bit, okay, because it's about the Launchpad model. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the Launchpad model relative to the current market conditioning, what's happening the last 3 days? Because this is the analogy where we're coming from. Bearish market. Yeah. Projects have problems raising money from seed to public. Yeah. Even if you would raise seed strategic, which might still happen, they have problems with private, which is usually the highest percentage of the pools. Then they want to postpone TGE until favorable market conditions, which means the pad is not launching projects, which means tokens devaluate, which is like a snowball, right? What do you think about that?
Okay, so again, so many levels you can look at it, because like to me, and I think again, I'm thinking about this as an investor to whom tokens that are launched in the pad is one of the opportunity to diversify, right? So I think if you're looking at your broad portfolio, then this is a certain amount of risk, hopefully, that you're willing to take. And first of all, it's important to look at your expectations. Yeah, you have to ask yourself, okay, how much is good enough, right? So if you're trying to do so there are so many different people involved into this, because once I started doing this, I've heard of this classic model which worked perfectly before, that you got a 10% unlock on TGE, you sell it, bringing all your investment back at the same time and hoping that everything else grows. But that could not have stayed for a long time. It's obvious, because it's like printing money. So it's quite, I think,
yes, basically a bull market strategy, right? In the bull market in November last year, it was working perfectly. Yeah. And ideally, you would get your initial back, or at least as high as possible to your initial. But in a bear market, you might be happy if the TGE even happens on the date it's supposed to happen. Yes,
yeah. And to be honest, like coming out of the more real world, and having the skepticism of, what really is a token worth? Because, it's not representing like a company, like a share of the company or anything. It's a utility. So I think I think the market is becoming more mature and should be looking at each project and what they're promising and how much they're delivering. So trying to give an answer to the question is, like, recently we had like 4 events. They're not doing amazingly well, obviously, on this market, but they didn't drop as drastically as even, you know, the headliners of let's say the crypto world are dropping right now. I think the main reasons are because when the teams are there, you know, like looking at our scoring, basically, when the team is there, we know that it's real, when the product is interesting and they have a roadmap, or they already, by the time they're doing TG, they already proved that they delivered on some part of the product, or they have a strong MVP, then I think the market is expecting them to deliver on all those amazing things that they promised, and the prices don't drop as much. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, there's also, if we just look at it as a manipulative chance to speculate, then, you know, it doesn't make sense. But if the product really is promising and we don't see any the markets, I hope I did understand your question, but we'll go back to, in a second to it. So if for example, right now we have a case, I don't know if I can name a project or not. We had this small round for Tank Metaverse, and the guys are pretty experienced, and on the private round, they collected already enough money to finish the product. So now, obviously, because of the market conditions, they do want to kind of skip it all the way into September. And now we're going to be proposing our community, hey guys, please decide, do you want to refund or do you want to wait to September? But I'm pretty comfortable with the project themselves, because, you know, the market is, yes, bad, but they have the money, they have the experience, they have the product. It didn't go anywhere, right? So, and if they do deliver on it, and if the markets are not as crazy, it's still going to be a good thing. Yes, you are delayed, let's say even for a month, but if we go back to, you know, personal expectations management, how much is enough, you know, and you don't put all your money in one project, you know, so if it goes into your, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I had a conversation with Herman about like a AAA project that was offered to us. And that was our first AAA title that we would bring to DigitsClub. But the tokenomics and their expectations of the current market conditions and the amount of money they could raise, we did like 2 advisory calls with them, and they just wouldn't have it, you know, compared to, and these guys were raising, I think, like 80 million. So like real AAA level, right? Okay. Plus an NFT sale, plus a land sale. And then there was like another project, which I just spoke about for one of our other partners, just as a favor, which basically the same situation. They did public, but they didn't need the marketing push because the marketing was already done by one of the VCs, and they didn't need to raise the money. They were just completing it because it was in the tokenomics. But it takes quite the mature investor to realize that, okay, we need to wait 3 months, and 3 months is fine, because in the crypto space, 3 months is a very long time. But then again, only if the market is bullish, because if the market is bearish or very bear, like right now, the 3 months just go by because people focus their stuff on other things, right? One crazy thing is the Discord. I think we had sometimes up to 5,000 messages a day. Right now, if we have 500 messages a day, it's a lot, right? But I think that is where the opportunity is, and specifically for Launchpads as well, that yes, it's the most difficult thing to invest into projects right now, specifically when you're unsure when they launch. But the thing is, it's bad now, but we also know that it won't be bad forever. And when you look at the chart, like, oh, I wish, could have, would have, should have, that I wish I participated in the bull run of November 2021, which I personally did, right? I was there and it was amazing. But the low that we have right now, it basically means that will happen again. You just need to be patient. And I feel like people let go of their initial strategy, like you said, diversification, right? For me, the Launchpad is a huge part of my strategy, right? And I'm still participating. I'm more selective, right, on the team, on the project, on the roadmap, but the opportunities are still the same. We just need to look at the right things.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more of a alternative question for you. On your model, right, when I go into your white paper, the model is quite complex on how the voting, and there's some formulas. And of course, I look smart, but I'm not that smart, right? So when I read that paper, I see the formulas, and I'm like, okay, if somebody wrote these formulas, it must make sense, right?
Okay.
Otherwise, they wouldn't put the formulas there. But I don't know what it means because I suck at math, right? At least formula math. So how does it actually work in terms of the allocation distribution on the Launchpad?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, kudos to one of our kind of founders. I could call him a founder, I suppose, who's like ideologist of all this stuff. These guys are super kind of into, again, all this DAO and theoretical kind of all this building concepts and stuff. I guess my part right now, and what we're doing with the redesign, by the way, is simplifying lots of things, because again,
Good.
I want it much more simpler, and it is simple at the end of the day, at least at this stage, because I think in a white paper they planned out everything that the DAO can give. So like reputation, where everybody who gives a comment or brings in more people gets extra reputation, and then you have to take it into calculation into the allocation, which is super complicated. I agree. So how it works right now, it's pretty simple, and it's going to be way more easier to understand with the redesign again. There's a simple price for entry, which is currently 10,000 TG DAO tokens, where after which you can enlist for the whitelist for any project. Okay. Sometimes, but we did it only once during my 2 months here, we might put this price of entry higher when the offer is very limited. For example, when we want, just to limit the people. Then how does the allocation work? So we agree with the project for some allocation, but usually we agree with the project that if we go a little bit beyond, it's fine. So that, we don't want to limit it too much. I can explain why we do that a little later. What takes into calculation of your allocation? We call it allocation points. The math is pretty simple. So the tokens that you have on your hand is one allocation point. If you stack them, it's double allocation points. So if you bought 10,000 tokens, for your entry level, if you stack all of them, you basically have 20,000 allocation points. Also, the guys who were early investors into our project, who still didn't get their tokens vested, we also count them for double allocation points, just to be fair to them, because they didn't get their tokens yet and they cannot stack it, which would be unfair.
Fair.
Okay, so
Yeah.
and then basically it's a weighted average. So people who sign up for the whitelist, we take the whole sum and we calculate it with the number of allocation points. So pretty simple.
That sounds like a genius system that we also thought about, the weighted average relative to points. I get it. So this system, I get, it makes sense. It's a very fair, right? That's like the most important thing. The people that are committing bigger get bigger allocations, yet there's still a fair share model. In terms of the token, actually, 10,000 quantity is the minimum. The current price, what that kind of entry would be in this very affordable market right now?
Yeah. Okay. Well, before 2 days ago was around 50 USD, so not expensive at all. I'll give like a couple of words on the whole token price, which token itself is super important for the project, but at the same time, and this is me speaking personally, so this is my opinion, token price is a little bit in a way like the price of a share of a company, okay? And it never comes first. It comes only after good business. That's why I'm not very much focused on that. So my concentration right now is to make a product, therefore website, super convenient. So the person, when it lands, it understands what he's doing, goes into the projects, he gets all the information that he needs, like about the detail about the project, and we're going to be pushing strongly on our flow, which is this our sort of different flow from other startups, which is again, we first take a project, we put it in status in review. So we don't want to claim that it's upcoming, because we want to show our community that, guys, we're looking into these guys, and we together with you, the community, will decide whether we should hold around. So we have the status, and during the status, we have following steps. We first do an AMA when we discuss, ask the questions. Then we do our deep scoring when we score personally and describe exactly on each point why did we think we allocated that many points. Then we hold a discussion, whether like a video or in text, with the community. Then where we can, put up some ideas and they can answer it to us about them. And then we hold the voting, which is going to be also on the website itself. So it's only going to take the voters who actually have enough tokens to participate in the round. And I think this is a cool way to stand out and, have our community engaged. Yeah, so why am I saying all this? Going back to the price of the token, that once it becomes useful, comfortable, and liking, then our community will want to have more tokens to get more allocations, because we're looking into more. So basically, I'm community first, products first, convenience first, and then the price will come. That's it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you deliver upon your vision, the value supply goes up, stays the same, and demand goes up, and then basically the price must come up. But I also truly believe that, just as devil's advocate here, Bitcoin goes down, all the tokens go down, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin goes up, the tokens pump. So it's not specifically your pad. I think it's any pad, not any pad, but any launch pad that is hurting right now. Because of that, obviously, that spiral as well, no projects, less raise, no TGEs, and of course you make your commission off the actual raise, right? And those things are quite unfortunate. In terms of an ecosystem, you briefly touched that word before. Are there things outside of TG DAO that are being built around the Launchpad to minimize the risk exposure towards like bearish trends? For the company?
Okay, so there is this big idea of TG ecosystem. It's in works. So actually there are people who are still on a website of like team of TG DAO Launchpad. They're not going to be there, because we're basically, with our rebranding, we're also going to be part of the whole ecosystem website. I cannot go with too much details there, because I'm not the guy managing it, but it's a lot about what I said already, like offline businesses with the community being there, with lots of discussions going on. So people are going to be, who are part of the community, proposing new ideas and business ideas. And if they realize, and with the result of the discussion, there are going to be created businesses probably around the world. I know that there's already kind of in our country created some.
So it would be like a decentralized launchpads for actual entities instead of crypto projects.
Again, Launchpad is part of the community, but at the same time pretty independent. So we can do whatever, as long as it's in line with the whole DAO concept. But if the ecosystem, when they will find, so they already have some communities who are taking part of it, and it's going to be a place where they can have more comfortable discussion with profile viewing of each other and ideas generation, and then they're going to have a marketplace, because those businesses will be producing something of a value, and they can be purchased on the same marketplace.
With crypto?
Good question. I'm pretty sure they're going to be eventually probably a token of inside token for the market itself, and somehow connected to the fiat. Sorry, again, like I'm just worried to say something over promising.
That's all good.
This is the things that
I'm just curious about the vision of the founders in terms of the Launchpad, because Launchpads do extremely well in bullish markets. But like you said before, there are so many Launchpads, and what the Launchpads are doing, the big ones, they're expanding into DeFi, into NFTs, into they're basically securing their position that no matter how bearish the market, they can survive, and they will push the smaller launchpads out of the market. So DAO Maker could liquidate at least 20 launchpads if he wanted to, right? I don't think it's his ambition, but we see him doing staking, some different point systems. There's a DeFi yield protocol. He's setting up the farms. I know about some corporate deals with DAO Maker that I cannot discuss, but they're going into a very wide direction. They're of course the market leader on the launchpads, right? Therefore, I think it's always curious because you just kickstarted the launchpad. If there is even an ID for an ecosystem, but you said that there is, so I'm definitely curious to see how that unfolds. In terms of the actual pad, right? You came on 2 months ago, which isn't that long of a time, probably even in one of the, I don't want to say the worst entries possible, but definitely you had a rough time the last couple of weeks in terms of the changes, the market. Where do you think, or what do you think you're going to do over the next 6 months?
Well, implement what we already discussed, because I'm still very confident that execution is king, and yes, there are kind of bigger pads, but I think like when you're an investor, there are a few things I assume you could need. First of all, it's a comfortable product where you go in, you find everything that you need, you have your project that you invested in, you see their investing schedule, you see enough information and data that the pad is sharing with you to help you make the decision. And then allocation, isn't it? So because, for example, I did get on one of the sales of CoinList, with all their basically like a lottery. So you have to stand in a queue, and when you wait for the hour and then it says, you've got 600 people in front of you. So this is the opposite side of being super popular, right? And then you have your chance to invest 500. Here, if you are part of the pad like TG DAO and we're growing and we're kind of still delivering money to the projects, we still get good allocation. And if you're proactive here, you might get a much better allocation here, if you participate. So I think in that way, good projects are going to keep on developing and keep on appearing on the market. So I don't really believe in such monopoly of 2-3 guys conquering the whole market, because competition will win over this, right? But what are we going to do in 6 months? And we are already, as I said, like pretty soon, hopefully during the next 30 days, we're going to be rolling out pretty much a total redesign, which is going to be much more comfortable, and I'm going to be pretty proud of that. Then once that is set, we're going to be concentrating on this flow of very rigid looking into each project and sharing this information with the community. And then we're going to be once that is set and understood and works well, we're going to start to reach out into the markets to gain more community to notice us, basically, because we're not investing into that much now, because again, I'm not happy with the product right now, and we're just setting up this new flow. So in a way, as you said, bad markets, it's a good chance to prepare yourself and do the work behind the scenes, because we can get projects right now on board, but because we don't have the flow set up, or I'm not ready, I'm not happy with the product, I'm not doing any promotions, because it's not where I want to bring them in. I can bring in the community, but they will not stay. So I want to create something valuable that they will come and like. So this is, in a way, it's good for us. But so we have to do at the same, you have to basically recreate the product, but at the same keep on going. It's not an easy thing to do. So in 6 months, if you ask me where we're going to be, it's going to be a pretty cool and comfortable launch pad where people will go even to study more about the project and have a comfortable navigation and participate into sharing their own ideas about the project, voting to have it or not, and getting a good piece of allocation, I think, rather than they will get on some top tier pad. Because again, like me personally, it's fun, but at the top tier pads, you have to invest a lot of money to get a not such a huge allocation at the end of the day. And why not find a new cool place like TG DAO?
Yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. I think that's a good ending speech, actually. you answered all of my questions, I feel, honestly, and it was I wouldn't say that you only been here for such a short time, because your answers were quite insightful. It sounds like you thought about it quite well. Maybe you studied a little bit before coming here.
It was just honesty is the best thing, right? Now I'm quite open because but another funny thing is because how crypto fast is changing, you cannot be here an old guy who knows everything, because things are changing too much. And at the end of the day, any business is just logic. And what we're trying to do, all this, I love this, the golden circle. If you don't know if you've heard about this, why, how, what, right? So to me, it all starts with ideology. And if it makes sense to me, lots of people want to make money on it. We want to be investors. We want to have a comfortable place where to invest. Again, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about, because you guys are doing a very similar thing. You're doing something which you believe in, and then you share with the community. What better can you get? So we are basically trying to build a pad that we're going to be happy with, that there's going to be navigating.
So you want to build what we have. I see how it is. If you need advice, call me.
Look, yeah, cool. No, I've heard that you did amazingly with the community, and kudos for that. But what we're trying to do is just to add the product of the comfortable product for Launchpad. So, and having enough allocation is also king here, because again, too much trouble for all the registrations, standing in line, waiting for it just to invest $100. I think if you like the project, you have to have an opportunity to put your 1,000 or 5,000 in it, and there should be an easier way to do it, right? That's it.
Fair enough. Makes sense. I don't think there are any more questions. I don't have any more questions myself. So to sum it up, big opportunity. I'm sure we'll see you again in the future to keep up with the changes you have implemented, right? To see at least how we as a community survive through the bearish pattern, and also what you're going to do compared to obviously the other launchpads out there, right? So we'll definitely keep you in the loop, following your journey, hopefully building into something great. Anything else you would like to add, perhaps?
Just looking forward to our possible cooperations with DigitsClub. So I think it's cool what you've built. I think you've got a community who's really listening to you guys, and you did lots of good analysis. So maybe we'll be able, to do some work together. So looking forward to that also.
Sounds good. All right, perfect. Vladimir, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure hosting you today. I'll make sure that Herman will be in touch with you as soon as we have everything ready. Cool.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.